All right, guys, welcome back. Welcome to, maybe if you haven't been here before, to the Comprehensivist podcast, or in this case, also our YouTube channel. So I'm doing both today. You'll see the mic here. If you're watching on YouTube, I'm recording for the podcast, but I'm also recording video for YouTube. We don't have a lot of content on there yet, but stay tuned, stand by. There'll be more up there soon. So anyway, Houston here. I'm going solo today. I'm doing a quick hitter, and I've already posted this subject on our website, on a blog. I know the blog at this point sounds like it's from the late 80s maybe. But I did blog about something that I titled Baseball Diplomacy. Maybe not a completely original term, but if you haven't checked out the blog yet, check us out on the everythingpodcast.com or the comprehensivist.com, and you can read about it. I included some links on some of the stuff I talk about. But I'm going to do a quick hitter today just to kind of review, because I think this is a very, very interesting subject, and I don't hear anybody else talking about it. And I think it's entertaining and complicated and interesting. So let's get right into it. So I'm wearing, if you're watching on YouTube, by the way, I'm wearing this hat on purpose. If you're listening on the podcast, I am wearing the U.S. World Baseball Classic hat. And the reason for that is because the topic I'm going to talk about today has to do with, first of all, baseball, and second of all, the U.S. and I guess more specifically in this particular topic is Cuban baseball. So let's just jump right into it. Again, calling this baseball diplomacy. And real quick shout out, I'm drinking my coffee this morning. So it's Sunday morning, I don't know, 11 o'clock. I guess it's not really morning anymore, but you can see my mug here. Get after it. Jocko Willink, shout out. If you're not listening to Jocko podcast, then you're missing out. Go check him out anywhere you get your podcast. So anyway, again, today's topic relates to the Cuban national baseball team. So typically they travel internationally for the most part, and they take place in tournaments all over the globe. And there is a important tournament, if you will, called the Caribbean Championships. Basically, some people call it different names, but the Caribbean Championships take place every year. In 2020, they're taking place in Puerto Rico, and that's a key point here. So the Cuban national team, who before I get into the details of the story, I'm just going to give you a quick kind of background on baseball in Cuba. They're legendary for producing talent, for having great teams. They have many, many Major League Baseball players coming out of there. That's a whole another topic that I'll probably talk about or write about in the future, is how some of the Cuban baseball players are risking their lives basically to come to the U.S. to fulfill their dreams of playing in Major League Baseball. But long story short is that the passion for baseball in Cuba is unmatched, maybe in one or two other places in the world. I know Dominican Republic, they love their baseball as well, but man, Cuba produces a lot of talent. They love the baseball there. They have won many international tournaments. They have 3 Olympic gold medals in baseball, which I don't know if any other country has that, to be honest with you. Probably should have fact checked that. But they're very, very successful in their international baseball program. They won. This is a key point, in my opinion, is they won the silver medal, meaning they finished second place in the inaugural 2006 World Baseball Classic, and that tournament took place in the United States, which is interesting. So that leads us into the story that I want to talk about today. Again, the 2020 Caribbean Baseball Championships are taking place in Puerto Rico. And you know what that means for international players is they have to get visas from the United States. Puerto Rico being a United States territory, they have to get visas from the U.S. to travel, in order to travel to Puerto Rico and take place in this tournament. So that's where the obvious, I guess, dilemma comes in for these Cuban players. Sorry, again, coffee sip real quick. So the reason that's a big deal for the Cuban players specifically is the U.S. and Cuba have not had basically consular relations since, I don't know, 2016, 17 at this point, something like that. And what that means is the Cuban players cannot go to, let's say, the U.S. Embassy in Havana and get a visa to go travel to Puerto Rico to play in this tournament. They can't do it. It's not allowed. The relations don't exist. So what they would have to do if they want to travel to Puerto Rico to play in this tournament is they have to go to a third country, physically travel to a third country, obtain their visa for the U.S., and then travel to Puerto Rico. Yeah, I know Griff. You can hear Griff in the background. He's fired up about this. He doesn't like this idea either. But they would have to pay money, fly to another country, obtain a visa from the U.S. embassy there, go back to Cuba, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You get the point. That's not really possible for most Cuban people, right? They don't have the money to do this. They don't have the time commitment to travel to these third countries and get their visas, their passports, what have you, to be able to travel to U.S. territories. It's just not possible. So basically what's happening is the Cuban national team says, hey, we're not going to be able to do this, so therefore we're not going to participate in the Caribbean Championships in 2020. And that's a complete bummer if you're a baseball fan, because like I mentioned before, Cuba is good at baseball. We would like to see them, if, again, I'm saying we being baseball fans, you would like to see them involved in the Caribbean Championships to see how they do. But I think the more important or the more interesting thing here is the U.S.-Cuban relations. Now, this is a very, very complicated topic. I've done some quick hitter podcasts on it in the past. I've blogged, again, using the term blog. I blogged about it on the everythingpodcast.com. This is kind of right up my alley. Anything that kind of intersects Cuban-U.S. relations and baseball, I mean, I'm on it. I love it. It's a very interesting topic. So I guess the point of today's quick hitter or YouTube video is I want to request comments from you guys out there. How do you guys feel about this? Here's my thing is sports has been known. Josh and I on the Comprehensivist podcast, we talk about all the time about kind of great stories in sports, about how sports bridges the gap between nations, cultures, individuals. Sports is kind of, everyone loves sports, right? It cures all ills at points, and it's one of the greatest things in the world. There's a good example for these two, for the U.S. and Cuba and baseball, the kind of the trifecta. This has happened in the past. Obama, somewhat controversially, but he traveled to Havana and he went to basically like an exhibition game between the Cuban national team and the Tampa Bay Rays back in, I'm drawing a blank on the year, 2014, something like that. No, he took a lot of heat for that, but he was really trying to make connections, make relationships again with Cuba. But he took a lot of heat for sitting in the stands with Raul Castro. A lot of people did not like that, and I can understand that, especially me being from Florida. I understand, somewhat. I'm not an expert, but the Cuban American mindset on how we should interact with the leadership there in Cuba, and especially if your last name is Castro, how we should interact with you. So Obama thought he was doing a great thing, and maybe he was. He traveled down again to Cuba, and he witnessed in person a baseball game in Havana, which I think if you just step back from whatever your political leanings are, pretty cool event that happened there. But my question, I guess, to you guys is, did we miss an opportunity here? Did we miss an opportunity to take advantage of the beauty of baseball, the beauty of sports, to be able to bridge those gaps between countries, between individuals, between cultures? Did we miss something here? Should we have made exceptions? I know maybe it's not written in regulations or laws, but should we make an exception here to allow these Cuban baseball players to travel to Puerto Rico to take place in this tournament that I think we could all agree that a lot of people would enjoy watching them and just watching the other teams involved? So the grand scheme question here is, I know this was a U.S.-Cuban relation / baseball story. Not a lot of people, that's not in a lot of people's wheelhouse maybe, but the overall question is, did we miss an opportunity? Should we allow them to play in that tournament and take advantage of that and maybe Again, I keep using the term bridge the gap, but should we utilize the beauty that baseball provides us and others to maybe build stronger relationships? So I guess that's my main point for today. And with that, I'm at about 10 minutes. So I'll go ahead and get out of here. Again, I wrote about this. I wrote an article on theeverythingpodcast.com. Go check that out. Leave some comments. Hit us up on Twitter @CompPodcast if you disagree with my view on this story, or if you have better input or better insight. I would love to hear it. I'm always trying to get smarter on topics very similar to this. So again, @CompPodcast on Twitter. Also, you can hit me up individually @BumpBailey on Twitter. So again, I'll share out the blog again just to kind of refresh it, and I'll share out this quick hitter once I get it up and posted at theeverythingpodcast.com. So thanks for listening. Hopefully this was somewhat interesting. I know not everybody wants to be an expert on this topic like I would like to be in the future. But if you have any comments on this, let me know. Let me know your feelings. Let me know your thoughts. I think it's super interesting. Again, should we allow the Cuban national team to play in the Caribbean Championships in Puerto Rico? Maybe yes, maybe no. Let me know what you guys think.